I recently saw a post in a photography Facebook group. Their client had lost their home in the wildfires in California. They had contacted the photographer to see if they would mind doing a reshoot, getting some of their images, getting images printed out. And the question was really about how much should they charge them to do like a reshoot or do reprints of their wall art? Because, quote, my time isn't free. And there were a number of people who were saying, like, you should just do this for them. And there was a lot of pushback on that. A lot of people were saying, absolutely, you should be charging for this. Just because they lost their home doesn't mean that you don't have a business to run. And I'm not going to mention the photographer's name or the group because I don't want to throw any shade on them. This platform here is about educating people, and maybe they'll see this and hopefully it will educate them. The problem I find with a lot of photography business advice is that it comes from people who are photographers and don't have a background in business. They're photographers who've had to start a business. Many have started successful businesses, but they've learned mostly like marketing and sales and haven't learned all the other aspects of business. I went to business school. I started my undergrad in business administration, entrepreneurship, marketing, organizational behavior, human resources, all of that. I eventually ended up with a communications degree specializing in business communications. But when I was in school, we learned about this concept very early on called goodwill. And goodwill I'm not talking about the non-profit secondhand clothing store. I'm talking about the concept of goodwill, what it means. In business, goodwill is actually a line item on a balance sheet. Goodwill is an intangible asset that the company holds, and that can be tied to brand identity, customer loyalty, business relationships, and a few other things that are not related to this, but they all fall under the concept of goodwill and how much value that actually adds to the business. If you think about a product like like Dr. Pepper, right? Owned by Keurig Dr. Pepper. I mean, the formula is worth a lot, but the brand and the customer loyalty of people who drink Dr. Pepper is massive. It has an actual number value that goes onto the balance sheet of that business. So what affects that? Reputation, loyalty, relationships. If your client has had the most devastating thing happen to them in their life, from a business perspective of goodwill and establishing greater value for your company, the last thing you should be thinking about is how can I get money out of them because my time is not free. What you're going to do is you are going to decrease the amount of goodwill that your business had. You're going to decrease your brand reputation, you're going to decrease your customer loyalty, and you're going to decrease your business relationships. In an industry where more than 90% of our business is not repeat business, it's first-time business, people coming into us, the most important piece of capital that you have in your business is reputation capital. And that's goodwill. Your brand reputation, your customer loyalty, how much are your customers willing to brag about you? There's a great book by Guy Kawasaki called Enchantment, The Art of Changing Hearts, Minds, and Actions. I'll put it up on the screen with a QR code so you can check that out if you want to get a copy. But the whole idea is like how to woo and influence and enchant your clients. That builds strength in businesses. It builds better companies. It builds better relationships. It builds customer loyalty. Word of mouth marketing in an industry where 90% of our business is new business is so important and so critical that the fact that you would even consider damaging your reputation, risking your reputation by trying to exploit people who have just gone through the worst tragedy in their lives is mind-blowing to me. And quite frankly, I think kind of vile and disgusting. It's not a good way to do business. It's not a good way to build your reputation. And it's not any kind of way that I would ever want to do business. When I was photographing weddings, one of the photos that I photographed was the last photograph ever taken of someone's grandparent. And they called me and said, hey, can we get like a print of that image? And I said, absolutely. And instead of charging them, I gave them the print for that image. And that one act of kindness and generosity and goodwill returned dividends. If you want to build a strong business that's built on relationships, which almost all photography businesses are, because you're building a relationship with your client, it's a very intimate, very personal relationship. Oftentimes they're letting us into their homes. You should be doing everything in your power for them to brag about you for the rest of their life. We lost our home, but our photographer did a complete reshoot with us, shot new images of our family for free, and they will tell everyone about you. And those people will be like, that's the kind of person that I want to hire. That's the kind of person that I want to work with. That's the kind of person that I would trust with my family's photos. So instead of trying to take advantage of people when they're down, when they're powerless, when they're weak, even if you're struggling, the best thing that you can do is support people, lift them up, and help them in a time of need. Goodwill. Let me know what you think in the comments. What would you have done? And if you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing.